Coming back to order, Secretary, read the report.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 847 to pass, House Bill 857 to pass, House Bill 858 to pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District. Chairman, that completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary, read a message from the House.
Mr. President, the following message was received from the House through Mr. Riley, the clerk thereof. Mr. President, the House has passed by the requisite constitutional majority of the following bills of the House and the Senate. House Bill
State and local government.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
We're not going to take up anything because they're waiting for the governor's. The governor's making his way over to see us. to address the body, so we're not going to take a bill, but he should be here any minute now, so just sit tight. Yes, sir.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that while we're waiting for the governor, he would prefer that we keep chopping?
I think that is true. I think that is true. Or need to do that. We need to finish the drill. We need to, we need to be elite as well.
We've been chopping all day, Mr. President. I just figured we should keep doing it. Thank you, Mr. President.
That was kind of funny, Senator. If I could have everyone's attention real quick, we've got a very special announcement from the senator from the 24th. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to tell you that the Senate has done it again. We have won. We did the drawing for the Sportsman Caucus. Drawing for a shotgun or pistol. One of y'all senators won the ticket. Do y'all want to know who it is? Let me get it. I know that this senator will use this shotgun or pistol pretty regular. At this time, I'm going to ask the senator from the 11th to step up here. All right, before I give him this ticket, we did so well on selling the tickets that we did a second drawing. But our senator will get to pick first. The leftovers will go to the House. Senator, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, if everyone could take their seats, the governor is making his way over from the House. So if everybody could take their seats, that'd be great. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, allow the governor and his team and escorts here into the chambers here. It is an honor to have Governor Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp and their team of folks with us tonight. We have enjoyed a wonderful session because of the governor's leadership this past session. It's probably the most engaged that I've seen him in the 3 years that I've been lieutenant governor, and it's probably the most productive Senate we've had because of that. So for that and his leadership, I'm greatly appreciative of that. He has led the last 7 years. He's been a steady leader for this state. He's been a steady leader for the citizens of our state and communities, and he's been one that he's backed up all his campaign promises. He said he was going to lower taxes. He said he was going to be tough as far as with the law and order, and he said he was going to be for school choice, for religious freedoms, and he's literally, I think, checked every box that he said he was going to do way back in 2018. So it's been a pleasure once again, Governor, working with you this year, and look forward to this next session that's coming up. It'll be here before you know it. I hope it's not as long as this one, though, Governor. But it is with great pleasure that I introduce the 83rd Governor of the state of Georgia, Mr. Governor Brian P. Kemp.
Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all very much. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Jones. I know some people may have the opinion that I was too engaged this session. I am honored to be back in the Senate with you and some great leaders, President Pro Tem Kennedy, Leader Gooch, Minority Leader Jones, the rest of the members of the Georgia State Senate. Thank you all for your leadership and hard work. Honored to have the best First Lady in the country, Marty Kemp, and one of the first daughters, Amy Porter, with us tonight. Thank y'all. You're very, very kind. Thank you very much. And we're thankful that you have yet again, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, delivered on another historic session for the people of our state. You know, if you think back just 81 days since you gavelled in, you have secured another one-time tax refund for Georgia families fighting through the high prices that they have experienced over the last 4 years, passed a second tax cut acceleration, which will further help hardworking Georgians and job creators and save them at least another $725 million each year. And I know we're all very proud of the much-needed relief that we are sending the victims of Hurricane Helene. We have supported legislation to strengthen our workforce, and not only to keep us the #1 state for business, but make us the top state for talent. And together, we have achieved something that no other General Assembly has done in over a generation, and that is pass meaningful tort reform. Now, I know that fight was hard. Those debates were fierce, but I believe at the end of the day, we have a common sense, comprehensive piece of legislation that keeps our state moving in the right direction. And while tort reform may have been controversial, some people for it, others against it, one thing we can all agree is that we didn't want to have a special session. I also want to thank you for your work on getting the FY 2026 budget passed. Chairman Tillery, thank you for your leadership. I know it was not an easy year, and we appreciate you and the subcommittee chairs and the Senate's work on the budget. Included in that budget are strategic investments that make our state stronger and further develop our infrastructure. And through these investments, the state is doing all we can to keep people working all across our state, no matter their zip code. And while we're also returning tax dollars where they belong, in our people's pocket. Other states out there are raising taxes on their citizens just to make ends meet. California, New York, and Maryland. But not here in Georgia. Here in the best state for business, we budget conservatively. That's why we're able to make historic investments without increasing debt, and we're able to do a third tax rebate and cutting taxes while we're at it. Thankfully, like much years in the past and throughout my second term, the partnership and thoughtful coordination between the Senate, the House, and my office has benefited the people of our state and put Georgia on a path to prosperity and opportunity. My hope is that we continue that successful streak, which has benefited hardworking Georgians most of all. As this seventh session during my time in office draws to a close, I want to thank you all for your contributions and your hard work. Marty and the girls and I are grateful for your service to our fellow Georgians. Thank you all. Good luck the rest of the night, and God bless you for what you do. Have a good evening.
Recognize the senator from the 31st.
Mr. President, I ask that House Bill 516 be removed from the table.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 516 by Representative New of the 40th and others, the bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 50-14-1 of the official code Georgia annotated related to meetings open to the public, limitation on action to contest agency action, recording notice of time and place, and access to minutes, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on...
Is there objection? Hearing none. Secretary, finish the caption.
House Bill 516 by Representative New of the 40th and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 50-14-1 of the official code of Georgia annotated related to meetings open to the public, limitation on action to contest agency action, recording notice of time and place, access to minutes and teleconferences, so as to authorize county and regional library boards to conduct meetings via teleconference or for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations offers the following substitute to House Bill 516, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-14-1 of the official code of Georgia annotated related to meetings open to the public, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Amatarte, the 31st, and others offered the following amendment number 1 to amend House Bill 516 by replacing lines 1 through 6 with the following: to amend Title 50, the official code of Georgia annotated related to state government, so as to designate the Attorney General as an applicable elected representative who may approve issuance of certain private activity bonds to finance or refinance state charter school facilities, to establish procedures for public notices and hearings relative to the issuance of such bonds, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Setzler, the 37th, and others offered the following amendment number 2 to amend House Bill 516 by replacing lines 1 through 4 with the following: to amend Title 50, the official code of Georgia annotated related to state government, so as to designate the Attorney General as an applicable elected representative who may approve the issuance of certain private activity bonds, to establish procedures for public notices and hearings relative to such bonds, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 31st.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 516 basically allows county and regional library boards and community service boards to conduct meetings through teleconferencing. This bill requires the meetings to be held at a physical location with at least 50% of the board members physically present, and that they should provide one or more methods of public viewing for such meetings and provide commentary at such meetings without physically being present at the meetings. I'll yield for questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 37 to speak to his amendment. Is the senator from the 37th around here? Senator from the 31st, would you like? Oh, okay, never mind. There he is. Come on, Senator. Got an amendment here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, amendments to HB 516, Amendment 2 is the one we're speaking to. Amendment 1 is going to be withdrawn. Amendment 2 essentially just takes an administrative hearing that has to happen. When we do tax-exempt bonds, there's got to be an executive agency that validates the public purpose.
The senator from the 31st just presented the bill, Senator.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
How are we presenting amendment when we haven't presented the bill?
The senator right there from the 31st just presented the bill, Senator. Keep up in here, Rules Chairman. Come on, get back in. Yes, sir.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
What bill is the gentleman trying to amend? Because the sheet that we have,
516, House Bill 516.
the yellow sheet says he's trying to amend House Bill 296, which is the next bill. Okay, we're all confused over here, Mr. President.
The amendments to 516 are in the book.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bringing before you Amendment AM 490273. 490273. It's to HB 516. It's Amendment number 2. Amendment number 1 is going to be withdrawn. What this simply does is when there's a charter schools built, because it's for a public purpose, they're eligible for tax-exempt bonds. Our IRS code requires 2 validations happen when tax-exempt bonds are issued. There'd be an executive branch validation, and there'd be a judicial branch validation. What this simply does is for charter schools with statewide attendance zones, it allows the Attorney General's office to do the executive branch validation of the public purpose. That's all it does, Mr. President.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thanks, sir.
Does any other senator wish to speak for it? Senator from the 31st, you want to close debate? Why don't you close debate, clear everybody up here?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we just had dinner, but we may need that Larry Walker power hour. So, Senator from the 20th, you may need to get up and get this crowd going. I presented the bill. The amendment is friendly. Vote green on both amendments. Thank you, Mr. President. What's his amendment? Okay.
Dude, everybody had too much copeland.
All right. Recognize Senator from the 31st.
Mr. President, withdraw amendment number 1.
All right. Is there objection to that? Without objection, Amendment 1 is withdrawn. Now we're on to Amendment 2. Is there objection to Amendment 2? Hearing none, Amendment 2 is added. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of 516, the yeas are 49, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator from the 29th.
And I ask for unanimous consent to lift House Bill 296 from the table.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 296 by Representative Gaines, the 120th, and others, bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the official code of Georgia Annotated related to issuance, expiration, and renewal of driver's licenses, so as to provide for that presentation of a driver's license in its certain electronic format satisfies the requirement to possess a driver's license while operating a motor vehicle, to prohibit the compelling of a licensee to produce a wireless communication device to a law enforcement officer, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection? Hear none, I recognize the senator from the 29th. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish the caption, and then Senator.
House Bill 296 by Representative Gaines, the 120th, and others, bill to entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the OCGA related to issuance, expiration, and renewal of driver's licenses, to provide that the presentation of a driver's license in a certain electronic format satisfies the requirement to possess a driver's license while operating a motor vehicle, to prohibit a compelling of licensee to produce a wireless telecommunications device to a law enforcement officer, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill to pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Strickland of 42nd offers the following amendment, number 1, to amend House Bill 296 by inserting after formats in line 14 the following: to amend Code Section 48-5C-1 of the OCGA related to alternative ad valorem taxation of motor vehicles and title ad valorem tax fees, so as to provide for an alternative method for payment of title ad valorem tax for certain modified rental vehicles, to provide for definitions by inserting after line 111 the following, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Kauser of the 46 offers the following amendment, number 2, to amend House Bill 296 by replacing line 8 with the following: lifetime sportsman's license, to amend Code Section 33-3-28 of the official code of Georgia Annotated related to the request by claimant for information as to the name insurer, a name of each insured, and limits of coverage, so as to revise disclosure requirements, to amend Article 2, Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the official code by inserting between line 68 and 69 the following, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a piece of legislation that was brought last year. I had some concerns about it as related to using electronic driver's licenses on traffic stops. My good friend from Athens, Representative Gaines, has worked on this legislation and got it to where I think it's productive and, again, moving law enforcement into the age of technology. I want to be clear. These types of IDs, based on this legislation as it sits today, would not be accepted when you go to vote. You would still have to have the hard copy of your driver's license so that it can be properly scanned the way it needs to be scanned today. But what this does do is allow the citizens to use an electronic driver's license as they operate their motor vehicle. It would give the law enforcement agencies until July of 2027 to obtain the devices needed to read these driver's licenses. And it would protect the individual so they would not have to surrender their phone to the agency that is conducting the traffic stop. There are 2 amendments added on this legislation. I've been advised that the authors of those amendments will come forward, discuss those amendments, and defend those amendments. I would ask for favorable consideration to HB 296 as presented. Again, last year I had some concerns about it, and I want to thank the good representative from Athens for the hard work he put into getting this in the way it needs to be. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
Senator's yielded. Recognize the senator from the 42nd to speak to his amendment.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 1 is actually House Bill 66 that passed out of the House. I believe it was 171 to 2 or 3. It was unanimous out of the Senate Finance Committee as well. So it's not something coming to you new for the first time. It just did not get to the floor yet today. This section deals with the current law we have for for-hire charter bus or motor coaches. That's current law, even though it's being restated. We had to restate that to add the new section here. And this is just saying for the TA VT tax. Under existing law, these companies that rent out these vehicles get to divide their tax payments in half and pay it over 2 payments. And there's a loophole currently where there's a company in Georgia that does modification of vehicles, and they rent those out, especially in the film industry in our state. And this makes certain that we put in code that for these modified vehicles that are also being rented out in the same way, they get the same advantage. They still pay the same amount of tax, but you get to divide those payments up since they are also renting out vehicles. So it's nothing that hasn't been vetted by both bodies at this point. It's just coming back as an amendment here. This is House Bill 66 originally. I'm happy to take any questions.
Senator from the, I don't think you have any questions, Senator. Or Senator from 14th, I'm sorry. You don't have a question?
It's on Amendment 2.
Okay. Senator from the 55th, I'm sorry.
The gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Are you speaking to, which amendment are you speaking to? Is that 140492 or 0135?
No, sir. It's 0135, Amendment 1. And I do want to separate. We'll address Amendment 2 in a second. Amendment 1, though, again, is the one I was referencing that was a House bill that was vetted in committee on this side as well.
Okay, and with the gentleman further ill?
Yes, sir.
Can you, in essence, give me 2 sentences as to what?
Yeah, yes, sir. And I don't want to completely repeat myself, but this is under current law. You'll see in this section we had to restate it because we had to strike and add one thing to it. Current law says that these for-hire charter buses and motor coaches, they still pay the same TA-VT tax, but they get to divide it over 2 payments.
Okay.
And we're now including another company that didn't quite qualify for that, or another type of industry where they're modifying these vehicles and renting them out the same way. They just don't qualify under the current code. So it's meant to be cleanup to capture the same spirit of the current law. They pay the same tax, they just divide the payments up since they're
Just
renting out the
splitting the
vehicles.
payment, is that
Yes,
is
sir.
a fair statement? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Senator from the 30th.
Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
This question was going to be meant for the last presenters. I'm hoping maybe you can help me on this. Any idea how much it's going to cost local law enforcement agencies to buy this equipment to read this new electronic version on the cell phones?
Yeah.
I don't even know where the other presenter went.
Yeah, I don't know. The underlying bill is not my bill, so I don't know. My section cost us nothing. So
Well, as a
I'm
fine
not-
attorney, I thought maybe you know all the answers to the
Yeah,
bill.
no, the
but I
country
just wanted to
lawyers don't
check,
always do
'cause,
the best math.
But I always appreciate
Yeah,
everything that
thank
you do. Thank you.
I'll say if I don't know the answer. I don't know on that.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right, Senator.
Am I
You
done?
yeah, you can
All
go.
right. Amendment 1 asks for your support. Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 46th to speak to the Second Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another bill late in the evening. I intended to put on the moped bill, Representative McLean. It was requiring you to have the minimum limits of insurance, but it fits here since this deals with insurance. It requires, if requested by a claimant, insurance company must confirm that they have obtained the minimum statutory required coverage. I would appreciate your consideration and passage of this.
Senator from the 42nd.
Does Senator yield?
I yield.
I heard the presentation, but actually, aren't you striking on line 15? Under current law, the way it works, when insurance company may have liability, they have to give the limits of the coverage to a claimant. Aren't you striking that?
And they can still give their copy of their declarations page, and obviously the full coverage can be discovered in discovery and litigation if litigation commences.
Do you further yield?
Yes.
So if your amendment passed, you'd actually have to get in litigation before you'd find out the limits of coverage?
No, you don't have to. If you made a settlement offer, you could make it conditioned upon disclosing the policy limits or that you accept only the policy limits or another amount.
Do you further
Just to
yield?
keep people from basically targeting deep pocket folks with insurance.
Do you further yield?
I yield.
But to be clear, you're making it where the current law says a claimant gets to see a limit of coverage. Now they no longer will see that. They'll just see if there's minimum coverage provided by law. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. Unless they disclose further, they give the declarations page could show it.
And do you yield for a couple more?
One more.
And this amendment we see coming at 8:15 or 8:16 on day 40 was ever filed as a bill and heard any committees this entire session?
I'm not aware if that was in the House bill or not. Of course, your amendment was filed at 8:14. So, I mean, I'm a minute behind you. You beat me to the box.
To be fair, isn't true. My amendment was a House bill that passed the House with over 170 votes, was unanimous in the Finance Committee in this Senate as well, correct?
That's fair, but that was a tax bill, went to our Finance Committee, got vetted and rejected.
It's not true. It was unanimous in our committee. Are you on that committee?
I don't see it on our calendar,
You voted for it.
but I don't see it on the rules calendar.
It is.
Well, then let's wait on it.
I think we're done.
Recognize the senator from the 55th.
Will the gentleman yield?
I yield.
You are striking disclosure of the limits of coverage and stating, I quote, a statement simply that the coverage provides at least the minimum required coverage required. Is it not true that most policies are only required for $25,000?
That's true, and this guarantees, assures that that's done, that folks are
So
complying
all
with
this
our
says
law.
is there is in fact insurance. Is that not a fair
Right.
statement?
Of the
But
type
what
required
about
by
the
law.
instances where, for example, I had a client to come in recently that had $240,000 worth of medical records, and would it not be true that I would have to litigate just to find out that there was only $25,000 worth of insurance? That's
Not
going to
true.
cause more litigation.
Not true.
Is that a fair statement?
That is not a fair statement. You could demand the policy limits in a settlement and require them to verify that, as is routinely done.
But when the current law is when we demand a policy limit, we have to at least know what to demand in order to implicate a number of other safeguards. For example, bad faith. Are you basically saying now that you don't have to? Are you basically saying that all you have to now do is say, I have insurance?
In response to this code section, but not in response to your settlement demand. If you made a demand for policy limits, they would have to confirm that.
But you're now going to require me to make a demand for policy limit, and I won't know until I litigate whether or not I'm even going to recover $25,000 if I have $200,000 worth of medical.
Untrue, you don't have to litigate to get that. You can make your settlement demand to the company for $250,000 or your policy limits, whichever is higher. We do it routinely. I answered a policy demand today during our break that was worded that way.
With all due respect to the gentleman, what is the genesis? Why do we need to now not disclose how much insurance do we have?
Because so many people are getting sued because they're known as a deep pocket. We've talked about premises liability and here ad nauseum on other things. And if that's the reason they're being sued, because they have assets or insurance, that's a deterrence to being adequately insured.
Thank you to the,
Thank you.
To the
I
gentleman
yield
in
the
the
well.
well.
Senator's yielded. Senator, are you wanting to speak? You want to speak to the amendment? Recognize Senator from the 50th. What? Oh, you want to do a motion? I thought you signed up to ask a question. Let him present, and then I'll do the motion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very interesting and late arriving amendment. I don't think it was thoroughly explained. We passed a bill earlier dealing with the civil litigation system. And one of the things we heard from our constituents is we don't want frivolous lawsuits being filed. We're tired of all this litigation. And I know defense attorneys that believe in what they passed know that litigation is going to slow down in the state of Georgia because we did pass a comprehensive bill. What this amendment does is assures that litigation is going to be filed. And I'm surprised there are defense attorneys that are bringing this. Because what this does is say, I don't have to tell you how much insurance I have. If you want to know, you got to file. You got to file a lawsuit. You got to get it in discovery. And then I'll tell you. So out of court settlements are going to be gone. You won't be able to settle out of court if this goes through, because it's called hide the ball, no transparency with insurance company amendment. That's what you should call this. It's a hide the ball, no transparency with insurance amendment. I'm going to ask you guys to vote this down. This will just allow insurance companies not to be transparent with people they injure, and it will cause more litigation. I yield the well.
Does any other senator from the 55th, you'd like to speak to the bill? All right. You can yield, Senator. You can yield. All right, Senator from the 29th, would you like to close debate? Senator from the 29th, would you like to close debate? All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my good friend from the 30th, basically these driver's licenses are read on an iPhone with an app. The app is free. Even before I retired, our agency issued iPhones to every officer. You want to keep your professional, your work iPhone separate from your personal phone, because law enforcement officers tend to get sued a lot, and we have to surrender our work phones and not our personal phones in that case. It's like I said before, I did not like this legislation last year. Representative Gaines, our good friend out of Athens, did a lot of work on this in the off session to get it to where it's good legislation. It's moving forward, technology moving forward. I would ask that you support the bill, and I will ask that you support both amendments. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? All right. So we got the questions on adoption of amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 42nd. Is there objection to amendment? Do we have objection? All right. So all those in favor of amendment number 1 will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of amendment number 1, the yeas are 51 and the nays are 2, and this amendment has been adopted. All right, so that we're moving on to amendment number 2. Is there objection to amendment number 2? There is objection to amendment number 2. All those in favor of the amendment number 2 will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine.
know I'm not just doing it for the TV. If I were just doing it for the TV, I would have made a scene. Yeah. I'm playing for the team. I'm not just trying to make a scene. You know what I mean? I know how to be quiet.
Were you going to ask it for?
Yeah, I was going to say Jermaine. Yeah.
You know what? That amendment, if there was one that wasn't Jermaine, is amendment number 1.
Well.
On the adoption of amendment number 2, the yeas are 13 and the nays are 39, and this amendment has failed. So moving on, is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Recognize the senator from the 54th.
Yes, Mr. President. I move to have HB 224 removed from the table.
Secretary, reading the announcements.
House Bill 224 by Representative Bonner of the 73rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 32 of the official code of Georgia annotated related to general provisions relative to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to authorize the construction or maintenance of roads upon military bases or installations by the Department of Transportation and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection? Hearing none, continue, Secretary.
House Bill 224 by Representative Bonner of the 73rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 32 of the OCGA related to general provisions relative to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to authorize the construction or maintenance of roads upon military bases or installations by the Department of Transportation and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolzal, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. My friends, this is a very simple bill. I don't know if you know this or not, but there are 13 major military installations in Georgia. What this bill simply does is allow the Georgia Department of Transportation to contract with the U.S. Department of Defense when it comes to working on roads on military bases, and then also the Department of Defense will pick up the entire tab for everything, any job that they do. Current law prohibits any official, officer, or employee of GDOT to authorize the construction or maintenance on any private road. This bill creates an exception to that law when acting in pursuant of the agreement with the Department of Defense or other federal entity. The Georgia Department of Transportation is authorized to construct or maintain a private road upon a military base or military installation, so as long as the funds expended are solely derived from the Department of Defense and other federal entities or agencies. Mr. President, this is a very good bill. It just continues further those military bases we have in our Georgia so they can make sure that we're taking care of those as we do, and it doesn't cost Georgians a dime. Mr. President, no question. I will yield the will.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received a requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Recognize the senator from the 29th.
I ask for unanimous consent to lift HB 652 from the table.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 652 by Representative Jones of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 9 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor fuel tax so as to provide for an exemption to motor fuel tax relative to the electricity collected from certain electric vehicles, charging stations, and for other purposes.
Is there objection? Hearing none, Secretary, finish the caption.
House Bill 652 by Representative Jones of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 9 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor fuel tax so as to provide for an exemption for collection of motor fuel taxes relative to electricity derived from certain electric vehicle charging stations, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass, the 6th Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 652, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act relating to regulation and taxation of electricity used as motor vehicle and electric vehicle charging stations, approved May 2nd, 2023, as amended to and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Dolezal of the 27th offers Amendment 1 to the Senate substitute to House Bill 652. This amendment is out of order as the bill was engrossed upon third reading. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an extremely unique piece of legislation because it focuses on one thing. It focuses, if you look on line 48, it defines what exempts special fuel. It means the fuel dispensed from an electric vehicle charging station in operation as of January 1, 2025, that is owned or operated by a nonprofit organization exempt from taxation under 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Service, that delivers electricity for no exchange or consideration for payment, that is located on a federal interstate right-of-way. That exists in my district along the Ray, and this special fuel is dispensed absolutely free to anyone who owns an EV. All funds used for that are funds raised through nonprofit, not through taxes. I would ask your support on this to keep that incredibly important free EV station there and operating. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senators yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I ask that the House Bill 443 be lifted from the table.
Secretary, read the announcements.
House Bill 443, Representative Petrie, 166 and others, the bill to entitle an act to amend Code Section 27-2-23, the official code of Georgia Annotated related to license, permit, tag, and stamp fees, so as to provide for fees for reef and migratory fish endorsements, provide for recreational and commercial fishing, provide for related matters, repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment offers the following substitute to House Bill 443, a bill to entitle an act to amend Code Section 27-2-23, the official code of Georgia Annotated related to license, permit, tag, and stamp fees, so as to provide for fees for reef and migratory fish endorsements, provide for recreational commercial fishing, provide for attention to certain fees, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Dolzo, the 27th, offered the following amendment number 1 to amend House Bill 443 by inserting after amend on line 1 the following, Chapter 2, Title 26 of the official code of Georgia Annotated related to standards, labeling, and alteration of food, so as to repeal Article 18 related to raw dairy, to repeal related provisions, to amend by inserting after line 7 the following, Chapter 2 of Title 26 of the OCGA related to standards, labeling, and adulteration of food, is amended by repealing Article 18 related to raw dairy and any reference to said article and to raw milk as regulated by such article in the official code of Georgia Annotated, Section 2, but redesignated Section 2 as Section 3 and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
The man from Columbia County, the legendary Columbia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring you House Bill 443. It's a very simple bill, but it's very important. Our Georgia fishermen have asked for this bill. DNR has asked for this bill. And simply what it is, it's just a fee for the fishermen, $10 if you're residents in Georgia. Non-residents, it's $20. But what it is, it's the money to be collected to do a study on our offshore fishing. The federal government right now is going by some guidelines that's older than some of us in this Senate, and it's not accurate. And this here will get more accurate data to where our fishermen can fish more in the ocean. Thank you. I ask you to vote green. I yield the well. Just vote green. Let's go.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. You have amendment? Which one of y'all's got the amendment? Y'all both raise your hand. Who's speaking for the amendment? All right. Senator from 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. For those of you that heard the discussion of the budget, really a couple days ago, there was conversation around the green door process where the subcommittee chairmen meet, and I know for myself, my biggest takeaway was how so many bills that we pass here that we may not think have a budget implication do indeed have a budget implication. And one of those bills that we passed a few years ago that has had a multi-$100,000 budget implication is the raw milk bill that we passed here in the General Assembly. And from my understanding, we are currently testing only one farm under this program. I think a couple other farms are seeking to be signed up, but this would repeal that law that we passed in its entirety. And with that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions, or I'm happy to yield the will.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. I recognize the senator from the second. Senator from the second.
Derek.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator,
I do.
Senator, can you explain the impacts of your amendment as it relates to I-16 and any future growth of I-16 as we talk about budget costs and the implications of legislation?
Well, every dollar that we save, Senator, is an opportunity to spend money elsewhere. And one thing I'd like to do actually is begin looking at spending some general fund money on infrastructure projects, and I-16 would be at the top of the list for me.
Thank you, Senator.
Recognize Senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Senator, isn't it true that there is a few times when I might agree with cutting back on some regulations, and this is one of them?
I would put this probably up with one of the few times that not only you would agree on cutting regulations, but you would agree with me. So thank you.
Wow.
Do you further yield?
I do.
Now. Huh?
Isn't it true that because the regulations were so high that many farmers who wanted to provide raw milk just could not fit within the large regulations that were placed when it comes to raw milk? Isn't that true?
Well, I went back and looked at this bill, Senator, and I was surprised to see that when it originally passed, it was indeed 20 pages of regulation around this topic.
And do you further yield for one last question?
Yes.
Isn't it further true that people can continue to sell raw milk for pet consumption only?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions on raw milk. All right. Recognize the senator from the 32nd.
Thank you. Would the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, are you aware that there's some other issues with raw milk aside from the budget considerations?
I had a conversation previously with a certain doctor in the caucus from the 32nd who shared some of those with me.
Would you further yield,
I will.
Senator? Just in reading the public health stuff that comes out, it seems that there is a much higher chance of people getting foodborne illness from raw milk than from pasteurized milk. Isn't that true?
I'm sure you know of what you speak, Doctor or Senator.
Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the first.
Just a point of clarification. Do you yield?
I do.
Yes. So we're doing away with raw milk in the in this department, inspection and so forth. So it won't be available. It will not be available for human consumption, but will be available for pet consumption.
I believe that is the case. In my reading of the bill as well, what we did is put a lot of regulation around the human consumption piece. I believe what this actually would do at the end of the day is the law then would be silent on human consumption as I read the bill. Because what we were doing is we were repealing this section, the 20-page, it's not a 20-page section of the law, but the 20-page bill that we did pass.
Okay,
so we're essentially, we're going back to where we were in 2020 and prior to that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Recognize the senator from the 13th. Recognize Elton John here in the audience tonight, everybody. Senator from the 13th.
Sir, do you?
I do.
Senator, would you please go through the cost this will be saving us and the numbers one more time on this if we don't do this program, what it costs
It's my understanding that in the base budget, we have we have appropriated approximately $800,000 towards the testing program.
And I think it's true that also it could be over $1 million.
Potentially in the future. I had a conversation with people that would know before, and they gave me a number of 800,000.
I support your amendment. Thank you.
I'm going to yield the well, Mr. President.
All right, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Questions on adoption of amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 27th. Is there objection? Without objection, the amendment is amended. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary, read the report.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 896 to pass, respectfully submitted to the Dixon, the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 49th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate amendment to HB 491.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 491, by Representative Chastain, the 7th and others, bills being town and act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 and Article 2, Chapter 4, Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated related to hunting and non-commercial fishing, respectively, so as to remove an exception for the use of air guns to hunt wildlife, to provide provisions concerning the taking of catfish by bow and arrow, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Okay. Mr. President, the Senate offers the following amendment to amend House Bill 491 by inserting before to provide for related matters on line 4 the following: to extend the firearms, archery, and primitive weapons hunting season for deer by inserting between lines 20 and 21 the following. Section 2 said article is further amended by adding a new section and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following amendment to amend the Senate floor Amendment 1 to House Bill 491 by striking lines 1 through 14. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Wednesday we passed HB 491, which was about air gun hunting and the sunset on that. It also had to do with catfishing with a bow and arrow. We amended it with an amendment to extend deer season, and all we're doing really is the House, we sent it back to the House. They took that amendment away, just agreeing to leave that alone for right now. Myself and Mr. Rocket Man from the 13th. We're going to work hard on this day one, and we're going to fix deer season. We're going to make deer hunting better than it's ever been in the state of Georgia. Mr. President, I yield for questions.
All right, you have no questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator from the 42nd, do you have a question? I don't see your light on, Senator.
I was actually wanting that one, but I'll yield the well, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against amendment or the bill? Hearing none. Senators move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to HB 491. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 20th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
So we're dealing with raw milk and hunting catfish with a bow and arrow at night with a light. I think it's time to sine die.
It's getting very close, Senator. It's getting very close. On the motion to agree, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1, and this motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 42nd.
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 207 as amended by Amendment 1.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 207 by Senator Strickland of the 42nd and others, the bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 20, 26, 31, 33, and 43, the OCGA related to education, food, drugs, and cosmetics, health, insurance, and professions of businesses, to amend Chapter 4, Title 25 of the OCGA related to firefighter standards of training, to amend Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 35 of the OCGA related to Georgia Crime Information Center, to amend Article 3, Chapter 8 of Title 42 of the OCGA, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitutes. Senate Bill 207, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 25 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to firefighter standards and training, so as to provide for the reporting of guilty pleas taken under the first offender treatment to obtain employment as a firefighter, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Strickland of the 42nd offers the following amendment number 1 to amend the House substitute to Senate Bill 207 by replacing ones 1 through the end with the following: to amend Titles 20, 26, 31, 33, and 43 of the OCGA related to education, food, drugs, and cosmetics, health, insurance, and professions of businesses, respectively, so as to create a pre-clearance process in the licensing of individuals with criminal records who make an application to or are investigated by certain licensing boards and commissions, to provide for definitions and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
There you are, Senator. How are you doing? You get take the whale right there.
Mr. President, we got to get the printers going on the House side with this bill, so I want to speed it up. This is our occupational licensing reform bill. This is year 3. You all voted on this bill 55 to nothing a few weeks back. You'll see the original bill you were given and the new substitute. I've been working with leadership in the House and reached a resolution on the bill. It's a little bit lighter because we removed part of the bill where it limited the offenses that could be looked at by the boards, and the House wanted to open that up a little bit more as a compromise. You'll have more past crimes looked at by boards, but you still have the same due process, same legal standard where someone can challenge whether or not the past offense is related to the industry you want to work in. And also, you still have the same predetermination process. Someone wants to work in industry, they can find out in advance if their past criminal record keeps them from working there. It's a great pro-job bill. I want to thank the Georgia Justice Project, Faith and Freedom Coalition, Metro Chamber, and Georgia Chamber for sticking with me. Third year now trying to get this bill done. Happy to take any questions. Or I'll yield the well.
You have no questions,
Thank you.
Senator. Did any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Hearing none. All right, so the senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute on SB 207 as amended. And all those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the agree, the yeas are 53 and the nays are 0. And so this motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 24th. 29th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 101.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 101 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, and others, bills to entitle an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to control of hazardous conditions, preventable diseases, and metabolic disorders, so as to require testing for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, add newborn testing screening system for related matters, provide for an effective date, to repeal smoking laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitutes. Senate Bill 101, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to insurance, so as to require certain health benefit policy coverage for medically necessary orthotic devices and prosthetic devices and their materials and components, to provide for definitions, to provide for requirements, to provide for reporting, to provide for rules and regulations, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal smoking laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
I recognize the senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of you may recall that SB 101 initially covered muscular dystrophy Duchenne's. It went over to the House. The language was moved out, and there was funding placed in the budget to cover the muscular dystrophy pilot program for the heel prick for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. The chair of appropriations worked with me. We reduced the amount, sought to do as much as we could possibly do, but to the politics that we know exists across the hall, we ended up losing the pilot program. But in the process, out of bad sometimes comes good, and I think this is absolutely good. What this does is it requires insurance, certain healthcare benefit policy coverages under insurance for the medical necessity for prosthetics and other things for Georgia citizens. And probably the best example of this is after I started looking into the bill, I was introduced to a young man here in the Capitol by the name of Elliot. Elliot is about 6 years old. He has a titanium leg. And Elliot would like to go run and play with his friends, but to do that, Elliot would need a blade to do that. And I don't know if you know it or not, but there are certain prosthetics necessary to take showers that are different from what you would normally wear. And so what this bill does is it gives Elliot, his other friends like him, and adults the opportunity to not only get one prosthetic when dealing with their insurance company, but the opportunity to get up to 3 prosthetics. And so it's a very great, good piece of legislation, very compassionate piece of legislation, and I would appreciate your support on it. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Senator from the 29th has asked the Senate to agree to the House substitute on SB 101. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock machines. On the agree, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1, and this motion has passed. Recognize Senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's getting kind of late, but I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 12.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 12 by Senator Gideon, the 47th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 18, and Title 50 of the official code of Georgia annotated related to inspection of public records, so as to revise provisions related to documents and records in the possession of private persons or entities, to revise definitions, to revise provisions related to judicial enforcement of inspection requests, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective dates, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute: Senate Bill 12, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 18, and Title 50 of the official code of Georgia annotated related to inspection of public records, so as to revise provisions related to public records in the possession of private persons or entities, to revise definitions, to revise related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection? Recognize Senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's getting kind of late, and I will tell you, said the SB 12's gotten a lot more attention than I thought it would have. I was really pleased when I introduced the bill. Just what happened here in our Senate, it had a lot of co-sponsors, a lot of support. It passed out of here unanimously. Took it over to the House. The House went through their process, made a little slight change, a little perfection to it. And then, as y'all may know, said it went to House Rules, and it got from a 3-page to a 35-page bill. Scared me to death. Well, I'm pleased to know that our friends over in the House, they clipped it back. They pulled it back to pretty much what we passed out of here. Said I want to thank the folks in the House for doing that. And I want to thank our governor for doing that. One of the things that you don't want to get into an argument with people that buy ink by the train car load. So for me, what this bill does, it's a pro-business bill. It protects our small businesses around the state. It's an open government bill. It's something that actually will help our local government so that we channel the open records request to the local government and protecting our small business from being overcome or outrun by open records requests. Not a whole lot different from what we saw earlier this year with a unanimous vote. I believe the vote in the House was 167 to 1. I'm asking for a unanimous vote to pass this bill, and I'll be glad to yield for any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Would any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none. Senators ask that the Senate agree to the House substitute on SB 12. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion to agree, the yeas are 53, the nays are 1. So this motion has prevailed. All right. The Senate to stand at ease.